senior. I want to start this little documentary off by asking them certain questions and getting them going in the right direction, and we'll take it from there. What year were you born?
1914, August the 18th.
Wow, that's how many years ago?
That'll be 76 very shortly.
76 years.
Yeah.
That's you got your money's worth out of that?
Oh, I didn't ever believe I was going to last this long, but I'm still here. And I'm looking forward to coming down for the next 10 years down to Florida. Maybe 20, I don't know.
Yeah, sure. Can you tell us something about your early childhood, about where you lived? And
Well, we lived over on Walnut Street. My father had a shoe shop there. And I used to, this old malarkey about when I was a kid, I used to have to walk 3 miles to school. Well, did. I went to school at the Elmira Free Academy, which is about 3 miles away. We never thought anything about it. And then we'd have an hour and a half off for lunch. You used to go home. Didn't have any cafeterias either. But we got out early. Well, we used to go in, had to be there at 8 o'clock in the morning, but we'd get out about 2:30 in the day. And then our vacations time started in early June, sometimes late in May, because from the old kickback when you needed the kids to help on the farm, you know. Of course, we didn't live on the farm.
Did you help your dad in his shoe store?
Yeah, I made a mistake. When I was about 8 years old, my father said, would you clean up at night and use the magnet, pick up the nails, and sort the leather bits, and I give you a quarter. Now that's big time money. And I doggone volunteered, and I was cleaning that shop till I was graduating high school. Of course, I got a raise to $1.
Uh-huh.
You know, that big time too.
At that time, you used to live upstairs over the shoe store, right?
No, we used to live in the back downstairs.
Oh.
And then my job was to eat in the dining room, and they'd eat in the kitchen. And I was supposed to watch the shoe shop. And I was an inventor. I had a long string going all the way out to onto the door, coming through all the rooms in front of the dining room with an old comb. And when the comb went up in the air, that means the door opened up. So you see, that was my first invention that I never got paid for.
Oh, yeah. Well, you got free room and board, didn't you?
Well, I didn't eat much. I was just a little kid, you know.
When you were a little kid, you helped your dad one time dispose of some stuff, and you threw some liquid shoe glue into the fire.
Well, what happened? They used to use rubber cement in the gallon
Okay.
thing, and he threw them out in the trash, and there was still a lot of it in there. But I knew the stuff would burn, you know. So I put a match in front of the thing, and it shot a flame right up into my hand. Luckily, there was a nurse lived next door, and had me put in ice water and keep my fingers separated, because they started peeling, you know. If I'd have put them together, they probably would have, you know, would have grown like together, or done something to them anyway. But actually, it didn't. Over the years, I have beautiful hands anyway, you know that.
Speaking of hands, that was something that when you were younger too, you taught yourself magic tricks.
Well, I liked magic. I was crazy about the stuff, you know. And I used to buy books, little books that told you how to do, and then do card tricks, and I'd practice all night long, you know. And I'd do with balls, and they'd fall, so I'd do it over the bed at night. And then my mother would come in, and I'd pretend I was sleeping, and then I'd start practicing again. And I was getting pretty good at it. And one of my uncles was a professional magician, and he gave me a lot of equipment that he was through with. Not big stuff, but you know. So I was able to, and I was actually going out when I was still in high school, earning little bits of money, you know, during the Depression. I was doing sleight of hand and card tricks and escape with ropes and all that sort of thing, you know. And at the same time, I liked artwork. I liked to do artwork. And during the time I was working on and earning that little money, in the spare time I was doing drawings and little sculpturing, you know. and I won a national contest, you know, and I won a scholarship, and that's how I happened to go to New York, go to school. And that was part of the, later, as you know, I was in the intelligence of the Army, and it was actually these experiences that they were looking for.
Right, everything had to lend itself to
It
something
did,
else.
I didn't have money, the school would have, didn't furnish board and room and board, so I apprenticed to another artist, and he was an Italian. Well, Italian or French. He came in from southern France, right near the border of Italy, so his French wasn't really good, and his Italian wasn't very good. And I got used to speaking that way, you know. And later, when the war came and they were looking for agents to work, they were looking for the particular person that could speak that dialect, and it fell into my category. So there you go. What else?
Well, no, going back to your childhood again, you were brought up at an age when the automobile was just starting to take the place of the horses on the street, and there was still a lot of horses. There was still trolleys, the streets were still covered with bricks. Do you recall the trolley, where you would go on it, how far you could go? And
well, for a nickel, you could go anywhere.
where did the trolley go?
Well, it'd take you over town, and then I think when you could go to Waverly, Sarah, and Athens, but it would cost you a nickel more. You could go to Watkins Glen, and it would cost, I think, 15 cents. Now, that was a long trip, and it was during the summer it was the open type. You get up and you could see everybody, you know, and in the wintertime they have the closed ones, you know. But there was so little traffic that we could go out in the front of the house and play six shinny, you know, that's hitting like hockey, you know, with hitting a tin can, you know. And then we play maybe for 10, 20 minutes. Oh, here comes the car. And we'd have to get out of the way, and we'd insult him, you know, and jeer at him because they were putting by, you know. Then the streetcar would come by once in a while. And even when we moved to this area here at 555 Franklin, later after we were married, as you were a little kid, you could play out in front here for a long time. Until we say, come on back, get over, here's a car's coming. Now you can't even cross the street. That's how bad it is.
Progress.
Yeah.
But back when you were a child there, going back, can you remember your parents talking about, well, your mother was born in this country and your father immigrated here from Italy. Can you tell us a little bit about his experience? I remember something about him coming over and earning his way across.
Yeah, he played one of those little accordions, you know, and he was pretty good at it. In fact, in Italy, he used to make a little extra money, like somebody was courting a certain girl. He would go under that girl's window at night, and he'd play the accordion. And then he'd stand and wave at the girl, see, as he courted her. And then when he came over, he came in steerage, you know, that was the cheapest way you could come over, you know. And they used to invite him up on the second deck and the third deck, the first class, and he'd play it, and he came over here with more money than he had when he started with, you know. But the experience he came down Mara, and he met an Italian fellow, and he asked where this address was, and he said, oh, it's about 6 blocks down, maybe no, a little further than that, but anyway, why don't you take a cab? Well, it was actually a horse and buggy, and he went over to the fellow, and he told him, I'll pay him now. So he gave him 2 cents. And he said, no, you can't do that. It's not 2 cents, because that was the kind of money that they used over there. So he decided that anything more than 2 cents, it wasn't worth it. So the two of them walked all the way down. And then he started a little shoe shop, and where he had it right down on Walnut Street, but it was a little shack. And you just go in there during maybe a big day would be $1.50, 70 cents, you know, that was a pretty good take in, you know. Then that slowed down, so he decided he'd get a job with the salt company in Watkins Glen. And he and his friend hitchhiked and took him 2 days to get there. He said he worked 2 days, and he couldn't stand it. Fall down, floor out, 10 cents an hour, 10 cents a day, excuse me. That was, you'd say to 10 cents a day, they said, oh, that's ridiculous. That's exactly. Then later, when you got the big time, later they were getting 10 cents an hour, you know, working on construction.
This is back around the turn of the century.
This is in the early, well, the late 1800s, but the early, I'd say early 1900s, you know. But I mean, I know when I made 10 cents an hour as a kid, picking vegetables and things on one of the farms. That was pretty good money. You know, you'd work 10 hours, but you didn't work that hard. You know, they didn't. You were just kids. You know, you made $1. Well, I'm telling you, when you made $1, you were. In fact, even after just before we were married, I went with Remington Ram, and I worked in personnel, and then finally I got in the job through a little pull in the adjusting the editing machines. That's big time now. You're in making 40 cents an hour. I mean, I was hitting it big, you know. You imagine 40 cents an hour. Of course, we didn't have income tax of that type. Social Security, we didn't have to pay for it. There wasn't any, you know, at that time. And after the Pearl Harbor, well, then I got called in, and I was sent up to Niagara, Fort Niagara, to take these tests, intelligence tests, and they were really rough up there. 2 or 3 days. They'd get me up at 4 in the morning and have me take the test, and then have me go out and with some of the training people out into the boondocks and come back exhausted. And if you wanted to go to bed, they made you take another test. And then I didn't hear any more, and I went home. And then I was sent down to a training camp down in Georgia, and basic training.
There we go.
You mean it's running now?
It's running now.
I thought you might be interested in how my father and mother met, you know.
Very, very interesting.
Well, he went into a little shoe shop when he first went down near Railroad Avenue, and he met my mother. She was 16, and he went to visit her every once in a while. And of course, her father didn't approve of her going with him because he was just a little shoemaker.
What was his name?
His name was Dominic.
Dominic
Rosside, yeah. And they call him Bolahetta because he had a bald head, and that was his name, Bolahetta. It's true. That's a fact. Nicknames went around. Everybody had a nickname in those days, you know. But so when she told him that my father, Nick, wanted to marry her, he said, I'll tell you, he's going to give her something to take place of it. So you don't marry him, I'll do something for you that you'll have a wonderful thing, wonderful time. I'll send you to Syracuse to visit some friends there, relatives. Now, you know, that's quite a big deal to go to Syracuse. That's 60 miles from here, you know, 70 miles. But no, she wanted to marry him. She was 16, and they got married. And about shortly later, then Philomena was born, and then I was born in Elmira, right down on 5th Street, across from Libertor's Saloon.
You weren't born in the hospital?
No, I was born in the house.
In the house? Was
Yeah.
Philomena born in the house too?
I think she was, yeah, we
Oh,
both
yeah.
were, I think so. And midwives, you know. And I always thought that maybe that they could be some sort of a museum. It ended up as a manufacturing, I think, Thayer products took it over.
Oh my God. Was what, a house or an apartment
They
house?
tore it. Well, they were the type of houses, you know, that are all the same.
Oh, okay, row houses.
Yeah, row houses. People that came over from Italy, you know, worked on the railroads. And that's the kind of house we lived in, you know. Well, what else I can think of?
Well, when you were little, then of course Aunt Emma was born.
Well, then Emma was born. And unfortunately, Emma got the measles when she was very young, and it made her deaf. And we did everything, you know. Finally sent to a school to the deaf, you know. And but she gets along wonderfully. She's very sociable. I mean, everybody knows. And when she speaks, of course, it's the way she hears things, and everybody thinks she's from Europe or something. Sounds like she has an accent, you know. But she knows everybody in Elmira, and she's very sociable, and well, there's nothing, you know, that you'd think that a poor deaf person, you know, but it doesn't bother her one bit. You know.
Also, too, in your youth there, your mother had a bout with diabetes just about the same time that
Well,
insulin was being invented, right?
Yeah, she was a big woman, very heavy, almost 200 pounds. And of course, you can remember it as a very small, slight-built woman. She lost all of that. At the time she had the diabetes, at that time, a couple of scientists, Canadian people, had developed this insulin. And they were using it on themselves, and it was working out. So the doctors here in Elmira would try it on her, and it worked. Of course, they used the big syringe needles, you know, and you had to boil them, and it was quite a process, you know. And then to test it, you had to go through another type of boiling and this and that. So it wasn't as simple as it is today, you know. But,
Time out for the phone.
Phone is ringing.
We're doing such things as answering telephones and entertaining children, which is the normal part of everyday living. We're back with childhood memories of my father, and where we left off, he wants to tell you a little bit about his experiences as a child, some of the things they used to do for fun then. Keep in mind also that a lot of this took place at the early parts of the onset of the Depression, which had to have some effect upon what was going on. When you were little, what was the kind of things when you were in grade school that you used to do for fun?
Well, I tell you, I hate to give this secret out because our kids should go to school and shouldn't skip, right? But Dutch Ferguson was a friend of mine, and we were always together. And we liked to go to the movies. And we'd raise the money by getting milk bottles. And you got a nickel at that time too for a milk bottle. So when we got 20 cents enough, we decided to go to the movie. Unfortunately, the movie we wanted to see was on a school time. So we were going to high school at that time. And our school had a policy that if you weren't there, they'd call home to find out what happened to you. So some way or other, we had to figure it out. And we found that if you go down and take the ground wire off of the pipes downstairs, you could call out, but you can't get a ring coming in. So we automatically go down, unhook it downstairs, and go to the movie. And then when we came out, so that we wouldn't be recognized, we'd limp, pretended that we were different people, which was ridiculous. And then we'd come home and hook up the wire, and then we'd write the excuses for each of us. Please excuse Jim or Dutch, you know, or rather to Lewis, as he was not well. And we did this for a while until one day we forgot to hook up down cellar, and they called the school and they said, you know, he's been out a lot of times, about 6 times this year. And my mother said, oh no, he's been every day. So finally they had a special meeting set up, and that ended the skipping. And when I was there in school, of all the things I failed was French. Yet I took that up later, you know. And my sister was a school teacher at Elmira College, and she had a little moxie and to pull at school, at my school, and she said, could you see that he takes an extra subject? So instead of taking 4 subjects and 3 studies, I took 6 subjects and 1 study. So that when the time came at the end of the period, and then I started making honor roll too with that. But finally came 3.5 years, I had enough credit to graduate. So I fussed around the last half year. And one day, the chemistry teacher came in to see my father. And they said Jim didn't show up for his examination. And later he found out that I was sitting in the park with Dutch, eating popcorn and stuff from the little wagon down there. And he was furious. I never showed up. I didn't need the credit, so I didn't go in, you know. But anyway, I graduated and got out of the school. But these are little things that we did that people don't talk about much, that we were always good. Boy, we weren't any better than the kids today, you know. But we always got caught somewhere or the other. But my parents had a lot of patience with me, you know. And we used to, when I played in the, I played the trombone, and I played in the boys' band, and we used to travel quite a bit. And many times they'd bring us home late at night, 2 o'clock, because, you know, but there'd be people with us, you know. And my mother's always sitting in the window upstairs till 2 o'clock in the morning, waiting till that car came up, you know. And later I never realized, you know, when she had to go through with a little kid that's going out like that late at night. And of course, we had it rough in the neighborhood because we were in Italians. And they talk, the colored people today say, oh, they wouldn't let the kids play with me. You know, I was a wop, a dago. I thought that was, I didn't even know what it meant, but it sounded all right to me. But they didn't want their kids to play with me. But the kids would always play with me at school. They'd meet me in Grove Park, and we'd play all day. If you had a nickel, you divided the candy with one another. And then the neighbors built a wire fence around all the different ones, and so that we would be isolated, because we were the wops there, you know. So, but I never thought much about it, you know.
Never let it bother you?
No, it didn't bother me, because I thought that's the way it goes, you know. So anything that happened in the neighborhood, they'd always blame, you know, I did it.
Did you?
Well, most of the time I did, yeah. But break a window or, you know. And so one time this lady came over and she said that Jim did break her window in the back. They saw him throw a stone through it. And my mother said, you sure? When did it happen? She said, about 2 hours ago. He ran right down towards Grove Street. She said, oh, that's wonderful. I'm glad that he did. Why? Because he's very sick upstairs. And so they took him upstairs, and I don't remember whether I had the measles or mumps or something, but I was in bed. And they said, he's been right here. He's under medication. The doctor comes to see him, you know. And the doctor just left not long ago, Dr. Colgrove, you know. And but when they left, my mother said, you didn't get out the window to go out.
You didn't this time, huh?
I don't think I did, no.
I'm gonna draw a connection between something. Remember when I was a young boy?
Yeah, I remember you broke some.
I did not break the windows.
Not windows, but you know, these glass insulators.
No. I'm talking about way back in Sheridan Court. That's some stuff I did before, but this isn't about me, it's about you. This is back, remember when the Finneys came over and they said that I broke the windows at their store?
Oh, yeah.
And I didn't do it. I really didn't. I mean, I did a lot of things, but I didn't do that. And they were utterly convinced I did. So you took me upstairs.
And I said, I'm going to take care of that, Mr. Finney. I'll take you. Come up, Jim, get up here, upstairs, and whack, bang, boom. And I was going, and then you'd go, ah, ah, and I kept, and then you meant, oh, that's Mr. Coletta. No, that's enough. No, please, Mr. Coletta. I said, well, I'll teach him a lesson. And I came down. Of course, I was hitting my leg all the time, and you were doing what I told you to. Poor Mr. Finney, he thought, oh, gee, you shouldn't have, it wasn't that bad. You know, you shouldn't have hit him like that. Then remember, you used to go out into the woods back there, and then you'd disappear. Ooh, you wouldn't see you for a long time. Then you'd come back with a little handful of wild onions for Daddy, you know, and then of course that calmed us down. So then I just told you that on the next time that you're away and you marry Pat, I'm gonna take the trombone out the window and blow a call. Ta 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 ta. And when you hear that, you run. Well, I stuck the trombone out the window and I blew that call out. Hundreds of kids came from all over, but you weren't in it and Mary Pat weren't in it. You were still out in the woods. And then remember, you're always getting ducks and pigeons and remember that? Yeah, you had this duck that you found near the pond in the back over there. We called it the star gazette, you know, that we had it. By the time they got there, it was dead, remember?
Yeah, Mary Pat was so upset she slept in the cage at night.
Yeah. Oh, we had quite a time there.
But
Then we got knocked out with a big flood, remember? Flooded us, oh, we lost everything. But,
oh, speaking of floods, when you were a young boy, they had a flood at your parents' house, didn't they? And your father had a heart attack when he seen it? Took him by surprise?
well, yeah, the water came up. It was always flooding the dam until they built the dikes, you know. We've had terrible floods. And, well, I don't know if that brought it on, but he had a heart attack. And, at that time, they didn't have really facilities. They put the tent on with oxygen, you know, and so on. But then they finally sent him home. I mean, there's not much, it isn't like today. We have all these sophisticated, this medication now that's fantastic, you know. I take it all, you know. And as the doctors told me, if it didn't have all of this new medication, say 10 years ago, you wouldn't be around. And it really keeps you going, you know, it's wonderful. But anyway, he had an enlarged heart, you know. But he was always busy, always doing something, always repairing, doing stuff. And he died up at the lake. You were with him at the time, didn't you?
Was he a smoker right to the end? I can't remember.
Well, yeah, he had smoked a cigar, you know, that was funny. We had a touring car, you know, that you put up during the winter up on blocks, and then drain it all out because you couldn't, you know, drive it. And when we every night we'd go for a ride. That was grind away, go for a ride around town, and then he'd smoke a cigar, you know. And of course, you know, you get that, and it was the wind that's swinging around. So just every time he'd get ready, we'd all duck down in the back seat, you know, in the thing that the wind is bringing around. And of course, you're always fighting in the back seat, no matter what, you know, like, especially if we went on a little trip, so we'll say to Watkins Glen. They had all these little places where they'd sell pop and candy and things like that, little sheds, you know. You know, you had to stop for them, you know. And he tried to reach in the back, you know, when we were fighting, you know, like I'm humming, Mary, and Philomena would complain that I'm humming, or I was pushing her feet, my foot against her. Of course, I was, you know. And well, we used to go on picnics all the time, all the time. There's always something, and it took days to get ready, you know. The fried chicken. Of course, we didn't know that you're not supposed to keep it in a box in the hot weather, you know. We never got sick. We ate it. It was delicious. And then if we go on a trip, my mother's sandwiches, oh, the piles that she'd make. And get ready. We get up at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. We're going to Rochester. Oh, this is going to be a trip. So I think that we headed towards Rowe Avenue, and then we were going to go towards Watkins. I always can remember. Well, we get about 3 or 4 blocks away. We wanted to start eating the sandwiches. And we were eating sandwiches. Now we got to go to the bathroom. And of course, it's still kind of dark. And these places that had these sheds had a little outhouse in the back. And then you'd get there and you'd go out, and they had the lock on them because they weren't open, you know. So we'd have to use the woods and the bushes. And it was very handy in those days they didn't have any of the state fences, you know, don't park, you can't pull over unless it's an emergency, you know. Now you can't pull over any place, you have to go to a place. Before there were, oh, beautiful bushes all the way, everybody could go to the bathroom, you know, in those days. And we went to New York one time.
In the car?
In the car, and that was another time my father he had the car out in front. It was 3 o'clock in the morning. And he had a funny feeling that he didn't want people to know that he was going to New York. And I said, you know, I couldn't understand it. Well, later I found out he didn't want them to know because maybe they would rob the place if he wasn't there, you know. But anyway, the car was sitting out in front and he turned it on to let it warm up a little bit. And when we came out, the police were all around behind the thing there with their guns and everything, with their, you know, the planes, just regular policemen, you know. Hey, Nick, what are you doing? Is that your car? Yeah. Oh my God, we thought somebody was in there robbing the place. He said, no, I had the car ready to go to New York. And watch my place when I'm going away. Oh yeah, we'll watch all the time. We thought somebody was getting ready to take off. We were going to get it. So that was the most exciting thing. So we started down towards Waverly and, you know, there, going to New York. Well, we had a first flat tire. And there's always repair kits. Jack it up, put on the patches. Of course, he put the spare on and he fixed it. Then we come to another place and they had a thing with one of those road things with the horses with a lantern, and he hit the lantern and broke the lantern. It was a detour. You go around, detours all over. They're just dirt roads all the way, you know. So we finally got there late in the evening, New York, and it was the Dempsey's Fairpole fight. That's what he went down to see. And I remember my mother and this lady that went with us went to a restaurant. We had lobster with these long forks. We used to get it out. I'll never forget it. It was delicious. I never had lobster in my life. And I think that was the time that, I think it was that fight where Dempsey won. But I think Tooney. Dempsey Tooney fight. They were both the tops, you know. It seems that they said that Dempsey said to Tooney, hey, your shoe's unlaced. And he said it. And he looked down and whacked him and knocked him out.
How old were you?
Huh?
How old were you?
I was about 7, I guess, 6 or 7, you know. That was and then we went to the aquarium and I saw, they call them seahorses, you know, they go around and I was fascinated with that thing, you know. And we made a few trips around. And then as you parked in one place, this fellow came in, something about wanted you coffee. My father said, I don't want no coffee. No, 10 cents to watch it for coffee. Finally, this lady said, he's saying he'll watch your car for you for a dime, you know, to keep him from other kids from breaking things. So he gave him the dime and then your car was all right. That boy watched all the cars, you know, beat up anybody that tried to get near them. But he thought he wanted something about coffee.
The accent throwing him off?
Huh?
The New York City accent throwing him off?
I didn't
The
understand.
New York City accent. Is that what the problem was?
Well, that's probably what it was, yeah, of course, at that time. And then we used to have running boards on cars, remember? Then my father turned in that Dodge for another car, because he had only had 11 years. That was one of the few in Elmira, you know. So he got rid of the Touring. Gee, we hated to see that go. We loved that old car, you know, with the isinglass curtains that we used to put on them and snap them on, you know. Freeze, God, we were turning blue in there. So he got one that was a enclosed car. And this one didn't have a running board. We went to the park over there in Ithaca, and as you spring in, they usually run over and ask if you want to park in their area, you know, or a nickel or whatever, you know. This guy came and jumped, and he disappeared. He was jumping on a running board and there wasn't any there.
Another victim of progress, huh?
Oh, yeah, it was Odessa, you know, near Odessa Lake there, or one of those things. They used to have a picnic area there, and very remote old trees, you know. But, picnic was the big thing. We always went to, we even go to Grove Park, three blocks away. We used to go there for picnic. And then, you know, we used to get our drinking water from Grove Park. They had 2 pumps out there, right in the park. Ice cold water, people lined up with jugs, you know. And my job was to take the jugs up and get 2 filled and come back, you know, today. And then once in a while, my mother gave me a nickel or a dime, you know, for the week, you know. And they had a little stand inside of the pavilion you could buy for a penny. You get 10 green leaves and you'd get 3 or 4 of it. You could get a bag of stuff. So she'd tell me, when you spend the money up there, make sure that you divide it with Emma and Philomena. So I had this little World War I knapsack that my uncle gave me. That he said, you know, he used to carry hand grenades, and he never even probably been near the front, but he gave it to me. And when I go up there, I used to put this candy in the one side, and then I put some in the main part. You know, when I get back, I dump them out, and the rest of it be still stuck in the side, you know. And of course, when I dumped everything out, I'm to myself, I'm being honest about it. Gee, the others didn't come out, it's not my fault. And then I divide those, and then I take the others to my room and squirrel it, you know. And then if I made a mistake one time, I squirreled some near the window, and it was a hot summer day, and it sort of melted a little, which wouldn't bother me, because you can always scrape it off. But then the ants got into it, you know. Oh, gee, they were.
Did you give that one stuff to your sister then?
What?
Did you give it to your sister?
No, I couldn't admit that I would have worked there. Yeah. And then, of course, later they decided that the sewer lines might break and pollute. That was the first I've ever heard about polluting it, and they shut the well down. But that was real cold, clear water, you know. Everybody'd go there, you know, and get the jugs. I'd always come back swinging to 2 jugs, you know. I knew you buy, like my mother and father go to the movies. She'd leave a dime with Philomena. We'd go to next door to Mr. T's, and we got a bag of, you wouldn't believe the stuff that we'd get, you know. Peppermint things and licorice things, just pop. Then she'd pour them on the table, and Emma would sit there, and Emma's just a little kid, you know. And so Philomena was a little shrewd too, like me. She'd say, 1 for you, to Emma, and 1 for you, James, and 1 for me, and 1 for you, James, and 1 for me, and 1 for you, Emma. Well, that was working good until finally Emma went, ah! She pointed to my pile, was bigger than hers. See, we're stupid. We didn't know about sort of taking it and putting it away. We left the pile there, and she could see her pile was just little, and we had big piles. Yeah, so she caught us. She was no dummy. And then our big treat was French fried potatoes. When they went, Philomena was in charge. She'd heat the, whatever it was, the grease that we got, and then we'd have French fried potatoes. Oh, and cheap piles. My mother let us, you know, have it. And my father was a great guy for bread. You've got to eat bread when you eat your meals. And he'd have this Italian loaf, and he'd have a sharp knife, and he used to wear a leather apron with a thing when he used to trim the shoes. You know, you'd see scars all over the leather apron, you know, where that sharp knife would slip. And that's just the kind of knife he used for bread. And then he put it, and then I used to take my bread and throw it under the bread and under the table. And then I got caught. Yeah, Philomena's a squealer, you know. And she used to tell me, James threw the bread on the floor. I did not. That was Emma's. And Emma's, you know, she didn't do it. Of course, they babied her because, you know, she had that little affliction, you know. Oh, we had a lot more freedom today. I'd go to the Miller Pond, not Miller Pond, but Brick Pond, and go fishing by myself when I was still 7 or 8 years old. You know, they didn't worry that much about it because they know that it was perfect. And I'd come back with my catch. I'd really get a whole bunch of those little tiny things, you know. And first my mother tried to scale them, and he ended up with about a piece as big as a quarter, you know. So finally, don't bring any more. So when I bring them back, my father would take them out in the garden and bury them, you know. He said, "They'll make good. You bring more, we'll put them in the ground. They're good for growing things, you know." Then we used to have our heat was cold, you know. Downstairs we had the coals. And then you take out the ashes out, and then my job was to sift the, you put it in a big strainer and keep shaking it, and then the black ones are still in there. You have to take them out, you know, the ones that didn't burn out, and the rest. Now those ash piles got me in trouble in August, because I hit a kid with a snowball, and he went home crying, a Bingham boy, and told his mother that Coletta hit me with a snowball. Well, hey, come on, it's August. So sure enough, I had a whole bunch of them packed up. What happened? During the winter, the snow had settled, and we put the ashes on top, and it had thermal, and it just sealed it in there. So it happened to, I don't know what I happened to do. I had to do something to maybe throw ashes on the yard or something. I was gonna do something, you know, to get, invent, get me. And I found the snow in the middle. So I made snowballs, and I would hit the kids. But you know, it was, they finally, they cut out, the fence come down, and, you know, and that's why I think I did as well in school, and why I wanted to be good at magic, better than anybody else. You know, I wanted to be better than something. And even when I was on the school's debating team, I really went at it. I really tried hard, you know. And we always won the debates, you know, because we really hammed it up, you know, and put it on good. And then I had seen in a movie a little trick that the guy did, this lawyer did. So that we were on the platform in the school, and they were debating, and they had the ending where he gets up and gives a rebuttal. I'm sitting there with my glass, and the sun is shining, and I whirling it, and the little sparkle is hitting it. So everybody was, of course I had friends out in the audience spread out all over the auditorium, so that when I'd say something, they'd all go bananas. You won by applause. So I had them all over, all planted out there, you know. And then at that time, the President of the United States used to have the fireside chat. Roosevelt, President Roosevelt, he would start out by saying, "My friends," and then he would tell you everything that happened. So then I would do this there, "My friends." Of course, that would bring the house down. You used all these little sneaky things, you know, and we won all the debates. I was with the International
Debating Society?
What?
International Debating Society?
That's right. It was just called, then they had a regular debating society. I belonged to that, quit that and joined the other one, debate against those. And our English teacher, Mr. Coogan, he was furious, you know, because he could see what was happening while we were women. Well,
when you were a kid, they didn't have television, of course. Can you tell me?
no.
What about radio? Can you remember your parents getting their first one? Was that
Well,
a big event?
we didn't have the first one. Our neighbors did. And we used to go over there and listen. And if you touched it, you used to get a shock, you know, because you had to be careful. finally people lived up there, the Redfields, they had a radio. And they come running down and says, "We got buffalo." I'm sure, but she said, "No, I don't think it was." "Yes, it does. The man said buffalo. I heard him." And then they come down and get excited, St. Louis. And well, it turned out it wasn't St. Louis. The guy was from St. Louis, speaking from someplace else. Well, we went from that. Then I had a crystal sign. You know, you could pick up the nearby ones. We had one little station in Elmira, and you could pick it up on the crystal set, you know. Then finally, we got the first recording, record machine, you know. I forget what the name of it was, but it was really something. Oh, we went bananas. We had records we played, you know, the Two Black Crows, and over and over we playing those things, you know. And finally, we got a radio, and it was really it was all these tubes and everything in it, you know. One would burn out, you'd have to get another one. And then finally we got one. Your father had, or my father had one, upright one, you know. And we used to listen to Amos and Andy's. Never missed them. In fact, they were so famous that you go to the movies, they'd interrupt the program and run their program so you could listen to the Amos and Andy's, then back to the movie. And we listened to The Shadow, you know, He Knows, you know, the secrets and all. But, and then Fibber McGee and Molly, and we just didn't want to miss them. We had to get home. My God, it's Tuesday. We have to get home to see it. Or somebody wanted to go to a movie, like Green Pastures or whatever was playing. Well, we can't go because, you know, we have to wait, maybe go in the afternoon sometime, you know. But everything was around that radio. Everybody listened to the radio, just sit there and, you know, and we read a lot of people. Everybody read, you know. We had our first car, was a real dilly. It was a coupe, you know, with a rumble seat thing. And I decided I think I'd better paint it gray. So I bought a house paint, and I painted it, and boy, it looked beautiful. And for about 2 weeks, then it began to blister, and you see all these cracks. And then you'd shut off the motor and it'd keep running, you know, the dieseling, you know, and just keep on going. You'd have to wait till it quit itself, you know. Well, that's the kind I had. And then we knocked out that little part behind the seat, and you kids used to stand there, you and Mary Pat, when you had it, you know. You don't remember that.
No, I don't remember that one. Let's see what we got right
Roll with
Yeah,
it.
it's rolling. March 18th, day after St. Patrick's Day. We're back to interviewing. Yesterday we lost a little steam, a little time, so we're back at the grind now. It's early morning right now. It's about 9, let's see, it is, yeah, it's 9:02 by the clock on the wall. Everything's fairly quiet in the household at the moment. No kids here. It's a school day, it's a Monday. And everything seems to be fairly quiet. The phone's not ringing, so it'll be a good time to go forward with an interview. We covered quite a few topics on yesterday. Today we got a little bit of an agenda we're going to try to follow, but whichever way it goes, it goes. On the childhood, when you were a child, and you were a child once, it's hard to believe by the size of you now that you ever were, but at one time you were a little kid.
A very small,
Yeah, very small,
undernourished
kid, never fed, kept in a cage, the whole business, yeah. We're not interested in the business about the orphanage or the penal colony you escaped from, but what we'd like to cover today is when you were a little boy and you didn't have TV, radio was still a fairly new thing as far as households go, you know, and not everyone had a radio. I guess the Japanese weren't invented yet, but your entertainment used to be, other than looking at other people fall off the curb or something, we used to go to the movies.
Oh, yeah.
What can you tell us about that?
Well, outside of the business we talked about a little while ago, about skipping school, this Saturday was a ritual. My cousins and all friends, we used to go to the Colonial Theater, and we'd make sandwiches, and we'd pack a lunch and so on. And we go there to just before they opened up, 10 cents, that was. And they had these Western movies, cereals, everything, they're terrific. And we'd go right down the front, and there was no, the only sound you had was the lady playing the piano as the cowboys were racing across the prairies there. She'd go up real fast, you know, bang it, you know, and of course we'd shout and everything else. And then when the bad guy would be creeping up behind the good guy, we'd warn him, you know. We'd scream at him and throw things, you know. Now we see that whole movie, and then we'd see it again. We'd stay there till 8 o'clock. Our parents loved it. Oh, they thought it was terrific. We were gone for the day. And of course, I always tried to get the seat at the end of the aisle, by the aisle, because when the popcorn man came, he used to say, popcorn, crispettes, butter, this and so on. And then somebody down there would order a bag of popcorn, a pretty big one for a nickel, see? And so he'd hand it to us, and I'd take a little taste and pass it. By the time the kid got it down the middle, it was down about halfway, because everybody took a little bit, you know. And of course, once in a while, my cousin Frank was very exuberant, and he'd get mad at the movie and throw things at him, and then they'd out. He told me he had to go, but he'd go upstairs, and we'd be separated for a little while. We'd go on every week, the same thing, you know. But we looked forward to that, and then there were serials, cliffhangers, you know, that kept you waiting for next week. We just couldn't wait. And so that's so much on the movies there.
Okay, from the, also too, another activity that kept you busy, and today it doesn't seem like there's much room for it, is the Boy Scouts. I understand you started out Boy Scouts at a very young age and worked your way right up through.
Yeah, at that time we didn't have Cub Scouts, and you had to be 12 years old before you could be a scout. And the only troop that you could go to, and of course my mother was, you know, Catholic, you shouldn't go into anything that's Protestant. You know, you're going to drop dead if you go into it. So it was Park Church, they had Troop 18. We used to meet on Tuesday nights, and I forget what patrol I was in, either the Panther or Wolf or one of those things. And we had a very good scoutmaster. He was very patient, and we worked up and went to camp. We went to camp. 7 days was $7. Camp Seneca, and I used to go every year, earn the money, and that was the thing. You had to earn your own money, you know, a big deal. And I used to collect papers, you know, old papers, and then they'd have them bring down to the school, and other kids would bring them, the parents would bring me a pile. Then I'd call this Jewish fella, and he'd come down, and he'd buy them from us, you know, and then we'd use that for the camp, the business there. And later, well, I finally ended up, I made Eagle Scout, but it took me until I was 18 years old.
But that was quite an achievement.
Oh, at that time, yeah.
Yeah, that was like a college education at that time.
Oh, yeah, it was a hard thing to get, you know, and we used to wear a band across here with all our merit badges. So it was actually in my senior year in high school, and I remember the day that they told me that I finally made it. It was on the 18th of August. I was 18 years old, and they announced that they called me up and said they came in, you are an Eagle Scout now. And in the meantime, the mail came and said that I had been approved for the scholarship, same day.
Oh, wow.
Now, here to really make it something, Mr. Teat had a gas station next door, our house, with the gas pumps on the curb. You never see them, you know. It's illegal now. And he was furious. The gas had gone from 16 to 18 that day. So everything was just, that was a big day. Everything happened in that
You
one
remember your
day.
18th birthday well.
Yeah, I sure do. And they had a surprise party, too. I had a surprise party. And my friend Bill Bouger took me for a ride in his car, and I wanted all this foolishness, you know. And he wanted to know if I wanted to go, he had a little 22, if we wanted to go and shoot chickens. Yes, we went to-
Shoot chickens? You used to shoot chickens?
No, but he talked about it, you know, he's always wanted to shoot chickens from the far, going along the line, don't you ever dare. So,
It was
so
one of
we
those
went
bluffs,
out, little target practicing, he kept me busy, you know, and I wanted to go home. Finally, he took me home about 6 o'clock, and when it went, surprise, and all the boys were there, you know, so that was a big day, I'll never forget that one, so we got up to 18. Now, what do you want to
Yeah,
know?
well, part of your heritage and culture and everything else, of course, being of Italian descent, everything seems to center around family and food.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay, food being a highlight, I can remember, you know, my.
Well,
early years
in
growing
those
up.
old early days, we'd have spaghetti and macaroni and on Sundays, and again on Wednesdays. That was it. You know, we had them twice a week plus us over, and then we had delicacies like bacala. I had a big wash tub on our back porch, and it was filled with codfish. You know, these big slabs of
The dried cod.
dried cod, and then when it was ripe enough, you know, and soft, then my mother used to bake it and put with the olive oil and garlic and sometimes some prunes, you know, to make it. And I loved that. I really did. And then we used to have a big kettle in the middle of the table, and we'd get served from that. And I used to kid my mother, take away the pot and the supper's gone. Then she joined the home bureau, and oh, the meals started getting fancy. You know, we started having desserts and things. And then, of course, we'd have rice with tomatoes. That was the main dish. And then the dessert was rice with milk and sugar. But then we had a little refrigerator, not a refrigerator, but an ice box. The man would bring the ice, and then we'd cover it with a newspaper inside. And my job was to remove the tray underneath. And once in a while I'd forget and flood. At that time we had moved upstairs now. We were going up in the world, so we
It's up
rented.
over the shoe shop over
Yeah,
there.
yeah, upstairs. There was a big apartment up there. And so she rented, that my mother rented downstairs with my father. And we kept the shoe shop there in the front. But lots of times I come home, the doors were locked, and Sunday they were up visiting. I was very good at going around the back, grabbing a hold of this T thing there made that you hang clothes, you know, the clothesline. And I just hop on there, get on the back porch, and go in the house from the back porch. And sometimes in the wintertime, we use the back porch for a refrigerator, and we bring out different things and let them sit, and they'd freeze, but you know, who cares, you know. And I can always remember when she cooked the spaghetti sauce and so on with, she always put pork in it, you know, to give it the flavor, and then that very thick film of grease, you know. Of course, we thought that was, we'd mix that right in, that was delicious, you know. Today, oh, you skim it off and throw it away, you know. But we grew up in good health.
Tell us about the sparrows, man. You used to have those windstorms?
The what?
The sparrows, when you had a windstorm.
Oh,
how
well,
people harvest
people
sparrows.
can't believe it. Of course, since I was in the service and going to survival school, we ate everything. We had to eat every little thing, snake and lizards and everything, you know,
Everything, yeah.
but they can't believe that we ate sparrows. Well, now, wait a minute, how could you go around and get a sparrow here and there? After a big storm, we'd have some terrific ones, and I can't understand, we don't have them today, maybe we do, and I don't recognize them. My Aunt Lisa used to send us kids out there with his boxes, and where all the branches were down, we'd find these sparrows, you know, killed, and we bring them home, and then she'd dip them in hot water, and then she'd sort of clean them a little bit, and then you get a big pile of them, and then she'd put them in the roaster, and just a little bit, then she'd mix them with tomato sauce and polenta. Polenta is cornmeal, you know, sort of a keep cooking it slowly, like you do pudding, and oh gee, it was delicious. And of course, how you say, how do you pick off the bones? What are you talking about? You ate the whole thing. There were little tiny bones in there. You just crunch them all up and eat them down. And then, as you know, Grandpa Mike used to go and with his brother down there in Florida, Pennsylvania, they used to go for blackbirds. And then there's a big flock of them. They shoot the scatter shot in there, and boom. And then he used to do the same thing with that and polenta. But those, you could actually get the bones out, a little bigger.
Yeah, one of the things when you were growing up, one of the big parts of your life there was your involvement in art, and you started off in your teen years with it.
Yeah, well, I always wanted to, did a lot of drawing all the time, and I wanted to make a model for the school. So we were in English class, you wanted something, I don't know if somebody had something on Shakespeare, you could bring a little one of these statues that you buy, make up on plaster. And I thought, I'll make one of those. So I told my father, and he bought a big bag of plaster Paris, and he mixed it in the tub, and then we poured it in a cardboard box. Of course, soaked the bag, but it didn't break it. It just sat in there, and we let it until and they had to clean up the tub and everything. And my mother was furious about, that stuff in the, he said it would go down and rot away, but anyway, we cleaned it. And then he gave me a chisel, and I thought that's the way they did it, I didn't know you made a model first, and then took the little calipers and measured it back and forth, and I just chiseled away, and solid plaster. You don't make things out of solid plaster, And I got through it, look, it could have been, with that hair down in the back with a sort of a braid, in the back that had. It could have been Washington, or it could have been Shakespeare, anybody. But it was, so we had it was so heavy, it took two of us to carry it into the school, because it's still damp, It kind of took, I don't know how long it took to dry. And we brought it in, and of course, it was Shakespeare. And of course, all the school had to come in the room to see it, And I don't know whatever happened to the monster, And then at that time, I had there was a big contest with Procter and Gamble and soap carving, and my English teacher wanted me to get in on it. And I thought, So I got some ivory soap, and I made models, and she sent them in for me, and I never thought much about it until one day it was announced that I had won the national prize in my grade, and they had sent these models down to the local art gallery, in that hometown, you want people to see it. So my principal, Mr. Parker, decided that it was such a wonderful thing that he gave the whole school half a day off to go down and look them over. But I don't remember seeing anybody there from the school. I think they all went to the movies or something, And then I had won this scholarship for the school, and the only thing was that school was, they took care of the schooling and all the materials, but not for room and board, In the meantime, a local sculptor, a man from New York, Anderson, he went bankrupt down there. It was during the Depression, and he came up with an old car and moved in with another artist up here, and he started a school. And so I went to that school for a while, and then he decided, look, you ought to go down to the school, but I don't want you to be an artist. You're going to starve like all the rest of us. But you're so good with that magic that down there you're going to be, in that art field, you're going to meet the kind of people that are in the show business. And you can get in there, you'll make a lot of money doing those tricks and things that you do. So go down, go to the school, but never mind trying to be an artist. I don't care. You need to be sponsored by some wealthy person. That isn't going to work, he said. So you go down and be a magician or whatever you do, you're good at it. So when I went down and I moved with this with this fellow, supposed to have been an Italian, but I couldn't understand him, and his French was, he come from way down south on the border of France and Italy, and he lived in the boyhood within the farm there. So I got so used to speaking that way that I didn't, and I helped him a lot with interrogation, you know, or rather interpretation when he was selling stuff, because they would rook him, you know. And then we'd go to the food markets and get the food and so on. But then when I got through, and I supposedly graduated, I came back up here, and I went in with Enford Anderson teaching up at Coles Hall in Almar College. I taught casting and composition and so on, and then I forget what we got paid. That was a big job. $40 a week, I think.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
It was, yeah, it was really top money. So I had a little studio on 2nd Street on an old barn that we used to, all the artists used to come in and use it. And I did a lot of painting. When I got that job, I said, I'm closing it up, I'm leaving. I left everything. There were paintings on the wall. What we used to do is put canvas like this, tack them on, and then paint. We didn't, and then as we needed paint, we'd borrow from different people. We'd sell a painting for $10. We have a party for 1 week. You know, we blew the money.
You know what we ought to do about this point? I think it'd be very interesting if we took a break, got the camera off the tripod, went around and caught some of these different paintings, and you tell a little bit about them.
Well,
these are recent ones. Maybe do you have that one of those early paintings that you have?
well,
like
they're all
painting?
over the
Right,
older.
that's-
You got one or two, and Mary Pat's got a couple, and I sold a couple out for the buck. You know what I mean?
You artists are all alike.
Yeah. But I haven't done anything in, I hold a brush in about 10 minutes, it begins to, you know, so I can't hold it steady, so I just, you know, gave up on that. Not
we
didn't give
we
up.
can get a little bit of an idea with some of these paintings here, though, with your
Yeah.
artwork, because they're beautiful.
Yeah, well, these are all local, you know.
Yeah. Of course, now the camera doesn't know what we're talking about, so what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna break off for just a second.
Yeah, well, Mary Pat will be here in 1 minute. This back one is, it's down, it's a big pond down here in Pennsylvania, not far from where the land was that we owned down there. And this is down in Pennsylvania near Blossburg. It's supposed to have been a horse farm, but there weren't any horses out there that day. And a lot of these blue flowers that are down in here, I forget what they call them, they're chicory plants, but they grow thousands of them down in here. And this is Julie's mother, Julie's favorite of these flowers. And that's about it here. Then there's a couple paintings that I did when I was 19 years old are out there. We hung on to them. They were painted.
Of course, now there's pictures of Manny's family and my family.
That's your painting.
And over here is the paintings that he's talking about. Which ones you want to start with?
These are the ones that I did a long time ago.
Okay, these were done a long time ago.
This is when I was 19.
19 years old.
19, 20.
Tell me, how'd you get your supplies and all that? Were they?
Well, it took a long time to get the paint, borrowing paints. And I had that one type of paint, and that's why you see it's predominant in the paint.
Mhm.
In that paint, and that it could have been a lot of green in there, but I didn't have it.
They're beautiful.
Let's
Let's
go.
go.
Or show me where the address is.
Here's a couple more here. Some still life.
This, of course, is Marcy's when she was a little kid. I think she was about 9 years old. She painted that.
I gotta show you.
Here we go. Hi, this is still March 18th. This is after lunch in the afternoon. The battery got low, so we had to discontinue earlier. We left off with the art, we're gonna pick up with the art and go forward. Got a couple more paintings here and a little more detail on them.
Well, the only ones that we've got here, people thought I did only landscapes, but actually I did just every medium I could get into. In fact, we just found this one behind the couch that we still had as a still life, you know.
Yeah, it's lovely.
Well, I'll tell you, a lot of these paintings that I had in the school were used for other students. So I imagine, well, it's years and years, 50 years ago, but I imagine that you'll see paintings almost like this as the others, the graduates leave paintings there to be used for models for the other ones. So you'll see a lot of still lifes more or less like this, you know. Then as far as the sculpturing is concerned, I don't have anything around except when my mother died, she left, this was a portrait of made my father when I was, about 20 years old.
That's amazing, I never knew Grandpa was black.
Well, I'll tell you, she dropped it and broke the nose, which I'm supposed to be fixed for the last 20 years I was gonna fix. And this is a 1.5 times size. And he was a very impatient man. And he'd sit for me for a few minutes. I had to have it right away because we were gonna have a show on down at the lobby at the Kennedy Theater. And I had to have it done by that weekend. So he'd watch a little while, and then he wanted to know if he could go outside and smoke a cigar. Then he'd come back, so I did it as fast as I could. And that's my father when he was about 39 years old, you know. So I'm gonna have to repair that nose. See, what this is plaster, and we cast it hollow.
Oh.
Yes, and then we put on a gold paint, and then we put this burnt umber, oh boy, and then we wipe it off to make it look like old bronze, you know, and then you can make it a different finish.
It's plaster, right?
It's plaster because it's dried hollow.
Oh.
We made, when you put it in the cast, you keep turning it over and building up the plaster inside, pouring it out. And then when it's dry, you chip off the outside, and there inside is the, you know, you treat the mold, you know. So that's all I got left of this, and all the other stuff is either around in some galleries or somebody's home, you know.
Now, he was 39 then, how old were you?
I was 20.
You were 20?
19 or 20. Most of that I did around 18, 19, 20. And then when I went to school, that was it. And when I came back, I was 23 when I went to the Powell's Hall with Anderson and ran the classes there. Now what do you want to know?
Okay, the next thing I think in your life that's of the biggest interest, of course, is when you met Mom.
Well, of course, we had to go through the Depression. That was a real dilly. And then in 1938, I met Julia. Of course, I thought she was wealthy, and she thought I was, you know.
So
I
you
told her-
married each other for money?
Yeah, I told her I had a lot of gold buried under the coal in our house down there, and I think she believed it. And so she said, okay, it sounds good to me, I'll marry you. And then she said, are you Catholic? I said, yeah, I am. Okay, then I guess it's okay, you know. So then we got married, and I had a big wedding, as usually, you know, the Italians do. And then what I didn't like about it is these people kind of start honking the horns, you know. I didn't want them to honk horns at my wedding, but they did anyway.
I mean, they brought horns and honked them there at the wedding?
Well, these actually were electric. You could press them. They didn't have the bulb.
You mean right in the church?
A lot.
In the church?
Well, outside, you know.
Oh, okay. It's
And then we went down and we took a long honeymoon. We didn't go to Europe that time, but we went down to near Hershey, Pennsylvania. And we stayed at these different little hotels, and that was about it. Then we came back, and we both went over to Remington Rand, and we worked there. And as I said, I was an adjuster there for a while. getting 40 cents an hour. And, you know, the depression was really bad, and we were happy, and I was happy to get it. I think she was getting 25 cents an hour where she was working. But being an engineer, you know what I mean, we got big pay, you know.
How old were you when you got married?
24.
24.
Yeah.
Mom was, mom's
23.
12, right?
Yeah.
23, okay. Yeah, and so then from there, you were living over on Franklin Street at that time?
Oh yeah, we lived on Franklin Street, right down the street here. It's 70 Franklin. And I can remember when we went for groceries, I used to walk over to Pennsylvania Avenue and with $5, right? And I'm fairly strong, you know, over 6 foot then, but I'm not anymore for some reason. And I have 2 bags I could hardly lift, and they gave me 1, 2, 2.67 change. The stuff that we got for almost $3, you couldn't believe it. You stagger home with it, you know. Now you get a couple candy bars for that kind of money. And then, as I say, I had to go into the service, and that was it from there. And you were born when I was in the service.
So you went into the service back in 1941, was it?
Yeah, there. Then I went down to, I was going to this, at that time I think I was in Benning, going to that officers training school. And then Mother moved down with us. And
Georgia.
we stayed in Georgia. And we had a maid there, her name was Almara. It's the strangest, and she was a 17-year-old little girl, colored girl. And of course, before she come, Mother had to clean the house first. She'd clean that house through, because she didn't want to see her any mess. And that poor, all she did was babysit you. She's just crazy. And then of course, outside of you that she loved, every time the garbage went out, they used convicts. They used to come back with Filipino people, and they would pick up all colored boys, you know. And she'd just sit out there with you and flirt with them, you know, and they'd, you know, they had a ball. Well, then finally, that didn't last too long, and they sent me to Maryland, a little secret camp up in the hills near Hagerstown, and it was made up of agents from all over the world. It was like a Tower of Babel in there. I mean, and we had preliminary intelligence training, dirty fighting, and all that jazz, you know. And then Mother came down and stayed there with me for a little while. And then I was shipped overseas to England, and in the meantime, Mary Ann, what's her name?
Mary Pat.
Your sister, Mary Pat.
Uh-huh.
There's so many Mary something. Mary Pat, she was born when I was when I was in England, I got word that she was born. So you see, I was never there when you were born or she was born. So then when I got to England, they sent us to Highgate, England. That was a real super secret intelligence outfit. I mean, we had everything. We had forgers and con men and lock pickers, and they were out of prison camps. We had the best of everything. In the meantime, I was given a crash course from artists that were stranded in, like Jewish people and so on, that were in England, and they were giving me these courses on painting in different mediums and so on, because that was going to be my cover. Now, I went way back. The reason, because I did hocus pocus, they wanted somebody who could deceive. Because the kind of work that we were in, we were called retrievers. Our job was to bring escapers, evaders out of the country, or get them out of prison camp, get them down to the Spanish border or the coast or so on, or set up committees in these camps and so on. And when we got through with that, I met General Eisenhower, of course, with the group, and all he told us, I want you to get along with your counterpart, the British, because we do want good feelings, You're working with them, you're working for them more or less, and they have certain peculiarities, and we don't want you to, you know. So that's all he told us. And then his aide told us, now this, you are retrievers. That is your job. You are to mess up, to foul up things for the Germans, and I know you're good at it. You do that, bring out people if you can. Don't fight, you're not soldiers. Keep away from any battle. We don't want any heroes in this outfit. Just get the people out and that's it. So that was the job I had. And they set me up in a studio in Grenoble, and they dropped us in. First they were gonna boat us in, because everything was screwed up, because we were sort of not a bastard outfit, but sort of, they didn't know exactly how to treat us, the Army did, you know. So finally they were gonna boat us out into Cherbourg, and we were gonna make our way in. Then they decided the last minute, we'll give you some jump training and you'll drop you. Well, they never did give us the jump training. They just told us that you come and we put on our clothes and different things we were gonna carry, and they put us in an old plane, a British plane, I don't know what it was, it stunk of oil and grease in there, and it was in a hole down, they call a Joe hole. You're supposed to sit over with a little rope on it, stuck up, and they said, you watch the light, when it's red, you go. And I'm getting sick, I wanted to throw up because it was really awful, so I'm scared to death. I'm cold, and then finally they pushed me out, and then the other guy pushed the other one out, and we come down, boom, my shoes flew off. I just had short shoes, and then I could see down there lights down underneath where cars were all lined up in a big circle. You'd say, jeepers, what are they doing there? Because in the central part of France, the kind of Germans that were around wouldn't come near there. They weren't the regulars, you know. But I was worried about those big hay rakers down there, you know. They have a lot of them, you know. Oh my God, I'm gonna swing into one of those, you know, I'm gonna get impaled. Finally I came down, and I didn't break a leg, but I felt pretty bad. And they were all rushing around. And the first thing they did, they wanted to buy the silk. I'm supposed to wrap it and bury it. And that was, they told me, where the hell are you gonna bury it? I'm in a big field here, you know? And they wanted the silk. And then, you know, those nylon cords, they wanted those too to tie up the grape and all that. They give me money for it, and I thought, just take the damn stuff, you can have it. So then they got me out to Grenoble, now the studio. But then because of the accent I had, it was evident that I came from down near Nice, near southern France. So that I got in, knowing the German officers used to come in to buy stuff, you know, paintings. All the paintings I didn't have to do because they had other painters making them, bringing them down, because I didn't have time to fool around. I do one and working on it while they come in, and they buy this crap, you know. And I got it, and then I had an excuse that I would go down and visit my folks so that I could travel, you know, move on, or I'd paint out. So this one colonel, one time, he was the break for me. He brought me a photograph, colored photograph, hand colored, you know, one of those things. And he wanted a painting of him, his wife, himself, and his two sons. And he says, when you paint this one son, make him look a little stronger. He looked like a little weakling, you know, but he wanted, well, I knew I'm not gonna paint that thing. I haven't got time to be fooling around. So they turned it over to one of these portrait painters someplace, you know, the underground. And they worked on it. They did a terrific job. You know, I got it all. And they signed the name, my KTA was their name on it. And so then I was able to wander around and take all my equipment with it. I had special passes to go. And then I come back to the studio and I cook, and I make a lot of onion smell and garlic smell, you know, like I'm supposed to be. And sometimes they come in the back and they'd have something with me, or they'd bring some coffee. They could get it, see, and we'd make a little pot of coffee and sit around. Finally one day, this one officer came in and he said, you went to any black? I don't know, way well, you know, get a little coffee, you know, extra. Your name was brought up there. I want to come down there and talk to you. Oh, what's this? But while he's still there, I went in the back in the kitchen, I went out the back, took the bike, and I never went back. Later I found out that one of our own people, a collaborator, had turned me in. So that broke that cover. That was all through. I was all through. That didn't last long.
Turned you in for black marketing or for,
No,
being
for,
a spy?
they don't know, they wondered what, the guy, the collaborator must have told them that I was doing there. I wasn't really what I said, you know, so they wanted to, they were talking about it in the headquarters there. And, they were gonna send people down. So I took off in the back and I never went back, and I did never go back there, I never went back into that park.
For some reason I'm getting some unusual noise with this camera. Obviously she's still running.
You all run out of film?
No? I don't know what that noise signifies.
Huh?
Seems to be working okay.
It is?
I think so.
Well, anyway, my next cover, I was an Italian forced labor up in Belgium, working on the railroad carrying stuff, you know. I carried that one piece of lumber till it got black from my neck, you know, from the thing. And we watched these cars going in and loading up with prisoners, and a lot of them were Jewish people. We weren't, not that we weren't concerned about them, but that was a big operation. You couldn't start breaking them out, and they weren't trained enough to move with us. You know, you get the military, they'll do what you say and go with you. And I'll be honest with you that with all the escapes, there were very few successful ones. But that was all right with us, because they really screwed up their military. They would take, just for one escape, they'd have hundreds of people looking, tying up their military. That was the main thing. And then we furnished information and material to these prison camps. And in these prison camps, they had committees, escape committees, and this committee, forging committees, and all sorts of things. But everybody had to do something. But everybody wanted to belong to the polite word, foul-up committee. Now, they wouldn't do anything purposefully, but the sort of ignorance, they would make a mistake. Dig a ditch here, 3 feet deep, and they dig it 6 feet deep on the wrong side. Oh, we didn't, you know, these men don't understand. So they fill it up and they go back to the other side. And they're always screwing things up, always messing them up, you know. The count, when they have in the morning, there would be 3 more in the thing, ho, 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 you know. They'd call out names, and then there would be a ho, and then there'd be a ho, and they get through, it'd be 3 more ho. There's only supposed to be 60 in this barracks, now there's 63. Maybe they come over from the other, see. And then they go back, this one's short 2, so they escape 2. Oh, no, wait a minute. There's now they got 63 again, you know what I mean? It just kept them going all the time. And some tunnels they dug, well, there was one successful one, where about 20 of them, that they didn't get far, you know. They got picked up and brought back. And that was with the regular army now. Later when SS moved in, then oh, they were terrible. They'd kill them. And punish them by shooting certain people. So, and then after the invasion, oh, that one time, that's how I got that Paris was freed by the Allied troops. They drove the Germans back. And this driver and I were way deep in. That's where it's safe, you know, you keep away from the Americans, because these points that they send these Kentucky hillbillies, boy, they shoot everybody. They've had a little drink, you know, they'll shoot anybody, and they don't take any, you know, you can throw up your hands, but I wouldn't go near them, you know. So it's one time we had these 3 British escapers. We're supposed to bring them through, and we were notified in London to come such and such a route, come through, and they'll be waiting for you. The Americans will let you through. So when we came to the bridge and the German guard was there, he said, the Americans are down there. So that my driver was, you know, and I also had a top, you know. He talked German to him, and he told him, he said, we're going to go down. The officer wants to reconnoiter down below here. Yes, sir, you know, you do what you want to do. So when we got through, these fellows in the back, they were so exuberant that the guns that were laying, it was a stolen vehicle, you know, a German vehicle. There were some German automatic Schmeichers and them in there, and they started firing back at that bridge. You know, hey, boy, we made it. Well, you know, they make a peculiar sound, the Schmeichers. There's a that is German. You know that gun. And so the Americans thought, you know, they started firing, and you could see the tracers hitting all over the place. Oh, God, then my driver turned to me and said the words, I think we're on the wrong road. We were. So he pulled over, hit the mines, and then just flew, everybody flew all over the place. This one guy in the back was still shooting, and then the pieces were hitting the mines around and blowing it over. That's how I got to be so deaf in my teeth, you know. I must have opened my mouth, they said, pieces went in. Otherwise, it would have blown the end of my nose. So it was dark, you know. I can remember running and hiding and going in the bushes and got into the woods, you know, because, you know, I don't know who's going to be out there. And I thought, boy, I'm going quiet. I'm real quiet. They can't hear me, you know. Then I broke a branch. I can't hear that. No, maybe right now they're saying halt. Could be American or German. I mean, they'll shoot you. Oh boy. So I just remembered burying everything, all my credentials, everything I could, except the safe pass down on my shoe, and it was, because that was terrific. You get anything you wanted with that Eisenhower's pass, you know. But I didn't have time to take off the shoes or anything, and I just tore all the front of my clothes, you know, dragging myself. And later I understood that these French farmer found me, and they didn't know what to do. I said something in for French, he couldn't understand it. And then I spoke English, and so he got scared that maybe I was American, I don't know, maybe an escaped prisoner or something. So he covered me up, and he got some friends there, and they dragged me over to the barn, because the Germans were using their farmhouse for bivouac, see? Well, anyway, they got driven out, and they got the Americans when they came down, another outfit down there. They told them about me, and they were trying to talk to me and everything else, and I don't know. So they decided to heck with it. We'll just take him to the medical center there and put him on a plane, send him back to England. So I woke up in this big hospital in England, and there's military police on the doors. Because, you know, not sure who you are, you know. So anyway, I fooled them because I could read lips, you know, and I'd be talking to them. And so I knew right away if they knew I was really deaf, they'd move me back into an area, and then they'd be sent out. That's the end of my career, you know. So I did fool them, I guess. They believed it, you know. And then I'd talk about headaches and all that sort of thing. And I told them what I belonged to, what outfit, and so on. So in the meantime, they had a feeler out. I told them Colonel Danker, he's not in our outfit, but he's the Supreme headquarters. He'd know about it. So they came back and said, oh yes, oh my goodness, what's he doing there? He's supposed to be on a mission out in, and they told him. So in the meantime, in the next room, there was a war correspondent. He'd been hurt. So his friend come down to see him. And they were talking, and so the doctors told him about me, and he said, oh, hey, wait, I'm going to see him. So he talked to me, and he said, say, you sound had a pretty good in life, and he said, I'd like to run a story on you. Oh, I don't know, you know. He said, I'm going to London, and I'll be back in a few days, and I get the permission, you and I are going to sit down. He come back, and he said, no way. They said, no, you can't even admit he's there. See, anything I can do for you? I said, I want to get the hell out of here. And I don't think I'm going to be able to fool him. He said, I know you, I turn my head and talk, you don't even answer. You're reading my lips, aren't you? And I said, yeah. You think you could make it all right? He said, I gotta get back. I gotta get back. He said, I'll see. He must have had some real clout, because he took me back to London. We went to his apartment. He gave me money. He gave me some clothes, civilian clothes, nice ones. And he said, now I'm going to go over to France, and I don't speak very well there. You want to come with me, and I'll drop you off. And so we went over in the little plane, and I left him. And in the meantime, he said, give me the address of your home address, and I'll tell your wife that, you know, you're doing okay. In the meantime, she had received notice missing in action, you know. She didn't know anything. And later she got wounded in action. Every time something happened, you know, she didn't know. Well, anyway, what did I say that fellow's name was? Yeah, Ed Merle. Well, of course, he's a thin fellow. He smoked a lot, and he was talking. And never occurred to me that he was such a famous person that he's just another war correspondent. Never thought about it anymore. Went back to Paris, my outfit, my God, they were surprised to see me, so they gave me back all my clothes, because they don't say anything, they just divide your stuff up. My nice new boots, everything. So they try to think of something to keep me busy. Maybe you'd like to get down to southern France, you know, they can understand you down there. Oh, I don't mind. So then when I got down there, they had to send me back because they wanted me to go to Switzerland. Because there were a bunch up there that I think I could handle. And they gave me, now we had things that we bought. We bought people. We didn't know always go with guns and take them out. We bought them out. People will bribe easily, German, anybody. Now, once you were in Switzerland, you were interned for the war. That's it. You weren't supposed to ever come out. But we used to go down there, or we went then, and first you would have money, gold, rough diamonds, they look like salt, you know, and cigarettes, cartons. The best was cartons of cigarettes. Gold was too heavy, too bulky. Currency, they didn't want it. And diamonds, they didn't know much about them, you know, didn't know how to market them or anything. But cigarettes, oh man, they'd just kill you for a wonderful carton of that. So I used to go up there and I'd dicker to get a couple boys out. In the meantime, down the road, the Germans are doing the same damn thing, you know. There's no animosity between us and that kind of business. They had them too, you know. So then the big bulge happened when the Germans came back down through during that cold winter. Oh my God, nobody knows the area but Coletta. I had workers there, I had seminar students, everybody, you know, working me, you know, at that time. Like, and I'd have a radio man, he'd be in a barn someplace, and I'd send these missionary students or the priests or anybody, young people, and then they'd come back and give me the information. Then they'd move, because that's a very dangerous job. I had 4 different radio men, and then they'd disappear, and at the end of it, they'd say, well, so when they came back, they said, there are cars around the barn. That's all I want to know. I'm going, hey, wait a minute, it's your friend. He's no friend of mine. We don't get friends. We're not friends. In fact, in the outfit, if you get too friendly, they break you up. You don't want anybody being heroes and going after anybody. You just go. You get out of there and notify us. We'll drop you another one. So, and that's the time that little Ernie Sardo was up in there and he got hit and he froze. And you know, the surprising thing that really saved him was that when I was in Belgium before the big push, I gave a talk to a couple of divisions there on an outfit that helps people escape. Probably never heard of us, but we're out there. And don't always try to escape. That's keep it in your mind. Maybe you'll never make it. There's a way to get out someplace, somehow, you know. And I gave this talk. It was very inspiring, all that crap. And when I got through, this young fellow came up and pulled on my peg leg and the thing, and he said, excuse me, they said your name is Captain Coletta. Are you from Elmira? Yes, I am. He said, I'm Ernie Sardo. Oh, for God's sake. Well, your dad used to help me with magic, you know. John Sardo was a professional. Come on with me. And I took him to the officer's mess, you know, and made a big hero out of him, you know. And then I called him into my tent and I said, I'm going to give you this stuff to take home, but don't show it to anybody. Silk maps, there's little tiny compasses that fit in the cavity of the teeth, and all of these belong to, and we put them in the survival kits for the Arab people, but we also got some extra stuff in here. I don't want anyone to see it. And then later after the war, you can have them. So he put them in pockets. Later, when he was hit, and they picked him up, and they gave him morphine, and they were doctors, at least humane, you know, and they were clothes, they cleaned it up, and they found these in, they got all excited, they had a spy. So the interrogator said, do anything you can, keep him going, keep him alive. Take off whatever you have to do and keep him alive. Because we talked to him later, that German major there, that was medical, he said, yeah, they told him, we just worked on that boy. And when I saw him, I thought, he'll never make it. So we had him flown to Paris. You know, the Americans, Army were moving forward. We didn't liberate him ourselves. But I went looking for the people I knew in there, you know, and I thought, he won't make it there. So I wrote a letter to his mother, and I told her how bad it was, all these things, and I don't think he's going to make it. You better know it, you know. So later, I happened to be back into Paris, and I wanted to go see if some of my boys were made up all right, and never thought to ask about him, because, you know, they said, oh, you got one here called Ernie Sardo. I said, oh my, you mean he's still, oh, you go and see him. He's in there joking to the nurses and so on. He's having a hell of a time. Oh my God, I couldn't believe it. Well, anyway, he came home. He did so wonderful. He got married, had children. He worked for the reformatory for years, and a terrific guy, you know. And another experience we had when we moved up to one of the camps way up, I was looking for this Di Maria boy. I knew he was a prisoner in there. So that it was the people running all over. The guards were coming up with their hands up, prisoners running all over the direction, you know, the army moving in. So I'm trying to find out where Di Maria is. I get him the hell out of there from all of it. Make it easy for him, you know. And so one fellow said, "Oh, I think he and his friend went that way." "Oh, what do you mean? That's towards the Russian front. Why didn't he come down with everybody?" "I don't know." So I got an interpreter, because I know the Russians are up there. These little patrols are all up there. So we drove and we went through a little village, and this lady said, "Yeah, they took two bicycles." Okay, now we're on the track. Finally we came, and there's a little camp there, and there was some Russian soldiers, and there's Di Maria sitting by the fire, and his friend laying on the ground. He was pretty sick. And I thought, well, now we're going to have a hell of a time again. Looking around for officers. There weren't any officers around. So I had asked them about the officers. "Oh, they're back there. They'll be here in a few hours, you know." "Oh, well, we want to get these two Americans." "Well, I don't know. We have to wait till our officers come here, you know." "Well, there are people, and they're going to be pretty sick. One of them's got a disease, you know." That didn't affect them. So then we gave them our wristwatches and anything we could get, and it took everything, you know. And they let us go, because I figured those officers come out, oh boy, we're going to be in problems, even ourselves. So we got them out of there. We laid them down on the back of because he could hardly move. And I laid the boy there on board, and we took him on that little vehicle. We drove back. And then I took him finally to one of these camps where they process everybody, and I had him looked at. And I said, "Oh, look now, Harvey, you're strong now. Would you like to go to Paris? Everything's paid for. The Red Cross has a big building there. You can see. I want to go home." "Don't you just, hey, everybody wants to go to Paris. Look, I'll give you a nice pile of money here. You go down and buy some souvenirs and everything else. Everything is taken." He wanted to go home. So we put him on a boat and sent him home. Well, he got married, and he had a good family, but he had mental problems, really bad. And we had him in the VAs on really all the time, Canandaigua. Finally, he died not long ago.
He worked for you for a while, too.
He what?
He worked for you for a while.
No.
Yeah, and that store you had when you were starting up the Italian food store.
No, I don't believe so.
Yes, he did.
But I tell you, no, when I used to go on lecture tour, I used to bring him with me, you know, and of course the part that made me laugh is when we walked in, he's more or less face like mine, you know. Well, they wanted him. And they'd go and shake his hand, "Glad to have you here," and he'd look at me like, I said, "No, I'm the speaker." He loved to go with me to try, you know. And, well, speaking of that, when I got through, when I got back, I was one of the lucky few to have something to do. And because most when they came back, the war was over, the bands weren't playing, and you're on nothing again. Where you had power over life and death, nothing now, you know. Who wants to hear you? But people did want to hear it, and they wanted to pay for it. So it happened to be the Lions Club once. Said, "Could you come down and tell us about your experience?" I said, "Oh, hell, everybody's been in this thing. Don't come and tell." Well, okay, I went down and I wrote out a little talk about escape and all that, underground, different thing. And it went over big. So the Rotary Club said, "Would you come down? $50 or $60. I said, "Yeah, as long as it's lasting here for a couple of days, I'll do it." Well, it happened to be an agent for one of these big, he came down and he came up and he said, "Could we handle you?" And I said, "Well, gee, I don't know. I wouldn't want to sign something and then find the thing fizzles out." He said, "We'll book you a year in advance and during this year and so on." And they told us what their fee would be, and then I don't have to collect, they'd collect everything. Well, okay, we'll take a try at it, you know, and my God, I was on the road all the time, 3 a day, high school, colleges, universities, clubs, and so on. Then I got a big break for the big money. These were usually $150 or $200. And it seems that an adventure speaker called Frank Buck, Bring Him Back Alive, He was supposed to be speaking in, I think, Buffalo or something, and he was down in Florida, down in South America. He didn't give a damn whether they did it or not, you know. They had to have an adventure speaker. Where are we going to get him? So they contacted my agency. This was the National Dinner Club. You usually had to be an author or something, but they were going to, I wrote that little article for the Life. They said that's good enough, you know, it wasn't anything. So that was big. There were 500, 600, or he was getting 1,000. In those days, that's a lot of money. So it went over big. Oh, gee. So then they had the lectures like Behind Enemy Lines, Cloak and Dagger Today, Adventure Was My Password. You know, big sellers. I mean, they just ate them up. Women clubs were just going bananas with it and all over. Some people came to hear me 4 or 5 times, you know, from different places. So finally they had a thing that really put it over. They had a national poll of all the lecturers, speakers in Canada and the United States, picking the 10 best. Well, I'll tell you, I made the 10. I was number 2. And I got beat by Lowell Thomas Sr. He was the ultimate. He was, I mean, he was my God. He'd fascinate you, you know, and he was also a commentator on radio. You just sit there and you'd be paralyzed just listening to him. But anyway, I came number 2. Of course, the paper here, they had headlines, you know. Oh, then the thing went up, the prices went up, everything. And then right in Syracuse one day, I passed out. And the police took me into the drugstore and they didn't know what to do. So finally, they decided I'd had some sort of a relapse or something. So they shipped me to Syracuse VA. You could see I was in papers I had. Then they shipped me to Bath. And I thought I was going to be there a few days. They kept me almost a month. And then I was having a hard time functioning, you know, and starting to get this arthritic thing, and everything seemed to be piling up. So I had them cancel out, and that ended that career. That, you know. And then, of course, all that money, here I am in the intelligence. I'm supposed to be, oh, I got a terrific IQ. Really? I had all that money. I had a lot of it. I lost it all in 2 or 3 months. Bad investments. Lost everything. This was in the middle of the talks, too. And I owed a lot of money. But I paid everybody back $1 on $1. I went out and I earned it speaking, and that was it. I ended up with nothing. I would have had a lot of money. But I got scammed, you know, into these things that I believed in. I was going to make $1 million. I ended up with nothing. So intelligence doesn't mean intelligence, that you're really smart. Have a lunch now, you know. It's a broccoli sandwich. You ever have broccoli sandwich?
Broccoli sandwich?
Mm-hmm.
Is this a low-cal diet you're on right now, sir?
Well, just the first thing I can get my hands on. Sometimes I have a sliced cucumber sandwich.
Yeah, sliced cucumber sandwich,
Mhm.
little mayos on it,
No, just
Oh,
eat them in
yeah.
there. Celery sandwich.
celery sandwich.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, now do you want to ask for something, or do you want?
Oh, okay, yes, we're back. We're fighting World War II. That's the one that happened before Vietnam, but after World War I for you history buffs. This man here just about did it by himself. However, I'm going to let him tell you about it. Meanwhile, while he's on the war, I'm being raised as a little tiny child back on the home front with all the ration stamps, not the same as food stamps, but called ration stamps. You want to explain all about the home front while you were fighting the war, how well we were doing back here?
Yeah, make it short though.
No, you. I'm not going to do it. This is your document.
I don't know anything about what happened back here. I thought you were doing fine. Eating high on the hog and everything while we're over there starving, eating steaks and things. Really rough.
Do you hear a bell?
What?
Do you hear a bell?
Hear what bell?
Never mind. That was a telephone.
I didn't hear anything.
Okay. He's
Well, anyway, I don't know anything about your stupid thing. I know you had a goat, their pet, and then your grandpa wanted to kill it, and they wouldn't allow it to him because he didn't have meat stamps, remember?
No, I was just a little child. I don't know.
Or whatever.
But my grandparents before the war, you know,
Mussolini?
Were they what?
Pro Mussolini.
Oh, yeah, oh, yeah, he was a great guy, sure. They gave their rings and everything else of gold, you know, to help him out. And I think these guys that raised him did a beautiful Italian, and they used to speak very eloquently. And all these old women take all the rings, ring. They probably had it melted and used it themselves. I don't think old Musclehead there saw it, you know. Well, never mind him. I forgot to tell you that when I got through and got home and on the lecture chair, I'm right in the middle of one down in St. Louis when I called to see how you kids were, and Mother said, "Oh, you got a call from Washington. Call that number." And I called up, and they called me back into Washington. Cancel out what you got. You're going to Korea. Well, you know, we got our outfit set up, but the escape thing didn't work good there. God, who were we going to pass for? We didn't look like anybody, you know, and they were using helicopters and everything else. So they sent me back after I'd been there a little while. What a mess over there. They sent me back to United States, and I became a member of the faculty at the Army General School and a writer. And I did that for quite a while, and finally things got a little bit, you know, they weren't in favor of the Army, regular Army. Thought we had too much freedom, too much money, and too much rank. Why, I mean, I'm a captain, but during the working, while I was in the outfit, we could wear any rank we wanted, because sometimes we'd pick up a major, and he started getting a little arrogant. He outranked, and I want to go out, and I speak French, and he wanted to go out into the public, you know, and I told him, you know, so finally we decided we better change our rank a little bit. We outranked anybody came through, you know. Otherwise they could mess us up down there, you know. And so we moved them down through. So the Army didn't like the idea of that, you know, that we seemed to be getting away with so much, no discipline, nothing in any all. So it sort of carried over into the Korean thing, and they called us the IS, whatever it was, escape evasion, EES, you know, what they called it, and just sort of a mockery. And then they had these West Pointers coming in command. They're nice boys, they were wonderful, but everything by the book, age 62, you know. Oh, you don't work that way, you know. So they sort of hung me around. They finally gave me a title to keep me busy, Chief of Army Special Intelligence. Oh, that was a terrific, but what? What was that of what? I didn't have anything to do. I wasn't even writing anymore. In fact, the last thing, I almost got court-martialed. He and another officer and I were told to write conduct during interrogation by the communists, okay? Well, we decided, hey, instead of this rank, name and serial number and then get your teeth beaten, say, wait a minute, I'm going to tell you what's going on around here. And we give them stories to use, you know? And that's going to confuse these Orientals. They're not used to that. They want to beat you up because you won't answer, see? Oh, they didn't like that. Oh, we heard from Washington. So they accepted the book that I wrote for Behind Enemy Lines. That became compulsory reading, you know, how to escape and all that sort of thing. And it was a manual. So finally, that was it. I was all through, went home. That ended and I came home. I started looking for something to do. I'm not trained for anything. I didn't know couldn't go into police work. It wasn't exactly that. I could be an interrogator. Yeah, that would be fine. But who needs interrogators? So then we opened a little food store, you know, over here around the corner. And we did pretty good. And then it was getting too much. We were too successful, so I quit. You know, I couldn't handle it. Oh, that's about it. I mean, I wouldn't say I was a great success at anything, but I enjoyed, I got banged up a lot. You know, I got blown up, I got beat up, always by the Americans. When I came through, we had to be careful. I got beat up one time. This OSS fella, great big guy, I wouldn't answer his questions, so he hit me in the mouth and he loosened the teeth. I got false teeth now. And oh, he was horrible to me till he found out who I was. And oh my God, he couldn't make it up. He just did anything, you know, because this was ultra secret, you know. Oh, gee, he turned out to be a terrific friend of mine. His name was Lagatuda, great big, oh, handsome guy. Reminded me of one of these movie stars that played Samson. What was his name? Well, whatever. But anyway, poor old thing, and a Korean thing, he ended up at our Army General School and he was cracking up. A lot of these agents cracked up because all of that responsibility is gone. That king, being a king, is gone. You're God. You're no longer a God. You're just a person. And he couldn't take it. He was breaking up. So they sent him to Korea. Go in there with somebody. They got killed when they got over there. So, of course, those were heroes in OSS. They used to blow up bridges, stuff. Not us. We weren't. Oh, I got a few citations. I got a Bronze Star. I don't remember what it was for. And another time we got a Bronze Star. Seems that when they were dropping these canisters down, parachute equipment, you know, for the underground and our people, we'd open up and find out guns and ammunition that wouldn't fit anything that we had. So we got a word that there was an outfit way down in southern France that was their shipment. So we said, let's take it down. So we got these two trucks, they were wood burners, you know. So like Tunaville, everybody's hanging on, we're going down. No resistance, nothing. We went right down the main roads, about 50, 60 kilometers. And then just before we got to that little town, we decided to clean up. We'd shave and clean, look real nice, you know. We washed our clothes and tried to lay on them so they'd be nice and clean. And so that next day we went in and they were, how'd you get here? What do you mean? What do you mean? The Germans, they had moved into the area behind us. They were just solid in there. Nothing was going to move through there. They thought we went through all that. Well, we didn't say anything. Well, you know what I mean, you gotta know how to do it, see. So we gave them right there, the colonel in charge, you men are gonna get cited for this. Well, our outfit isn't too improved to that. So we lined us up and they took photographs of Bronze Star and all that sort of thing. Anybody got a scratch for Purple Heart? Those poor guys that got hurt bad in the war were getting the same thing as our, you know, it was really ridiculous. So when I told one of my people back in Paris, I said, I got a Bronze Star. He's wonderful. That and a nickel will buy a cup of coffee. They didn't think much about it, you know, because that's the way the outfit worked, you know. Because it seemed that every time, and we try to keep deep in, that's safe way down in there. But as soon as the Americans came forward, and they moved so fast, God, I'd be in a hotel looking down, seeing the Germans had the corners all, you know, sandbagged, you know, and I'm very comfortable. They were protecting me, you know. Geez, you look the next day, there comes the Americans. You know, oh, of course it's all right. You could, and then when they're all there, you wave to them and ask them for cigarettes, you know. And I went to this one Jeep with these two GIs were in there, and I said, cigarette? He said, look at this long nose son of a bitch. He wants a cigarette. I said, who the hell are you called, you son of a... And I started sweating. He ran up in it, you sound like an American. I said, I am. Oh, geez, get in here. And then it took me with them, and all they give me, everything. Of course, I didn't smoke, but cigarettes and candy. They had one of these little 10 halves, you know, and everybody was throwing stuff in there, you know, and they found out I was a spy, you know.
Jim,
But,
I go and lay down for,
okay, you're on TV. You're on camera. You want to come and say it?
No.
She wants to go to bed right now.
no,
Rest a little
wait a
bit.
minute, no, Jim, I just have to for 10 minutes.
Okay.
With the poor dog, she's crying.
Okay, as I was saying, this running tape now.
Please bring her in, don't be so cruel.
Yeah, bring the dog in.
Big meaty.
Do you got any advice out there for people
I
who
don't know,
wanna
what
go
have
to
you
war?
got, what have
Stay
you got
home.
for the kids when you pick them up?
I'll turn it off, Phil. I'll take
These are some pictures of the old homestead here. Weather's raining right now. It's still March 18th, 1991. Give you something to keep in mind what this is all about. The addition was put on to accommodate the sub-stores over on the left.
As you say, there's been changes made to this house over the years. It's over 100 years old. So what, the dwellings all around it about the same. Making a complete circle. And there's the ice cream stand. The bar is closed. Don't turn around. I won't get you on the camera because you don't want to be on. What you cooking?
Browned broccoli and mushrooms. I got the recipe in Florida, in Mary Ann's cookbook, for mushrooms, but I used it for this.
Would you call it an old family recipe? An heirloom?
No, it was in her Betty Crocker cookbook. It was new to me.
Oh, okay. Hi, how you doing? Where's that dog? There's that dog. Get back, get back, back, boy. Back. Getting a different perspective on here. Big pine trees. Started out, there were small little things when we originally moved here. And there's the garden that never grows. Picnic table that's been around for 110 years, and all the old home movies and everything else. And of course, the house again. And up there is where my bedroom was. I used to shoot sparrows out of that window. But that was long before I got religious. Okay. That's it. Oh, yeah, by the way, I don't want to forget to tell you, this is the end of Reel 1. Go to Reel 2. Go to Reel 2. End of Reel 1. End of Reel 1. Go to Reel 2. Go to Reel 2.